It's just like it got sent out to my email list and everything. I don't know who will show up at the time. Oh, it's live now. Hi everyone. It's SLART here. Steve Light, Sean Bennett, who I've known for about 13 years or so, I think. So what we're going to talk about today is creativity and our shared connection of having social anxiety. So we've got in touch again and been in more regular contact since. I don't think we saw each other for like 10 years or something when I moved away from London to Swindon. So I'll just talk a bit about before I start. Actually, what we're going to do is have a chat. I'll talk about my background. Sean will talk about his, and then we'll have a bit of a Q&A afterwards. So it's going to be an hour altogether. So I'll start basically with I had really bad social anxiety as a child. I was really shy. Found it hard to make friends, and I was just like, I remember the feeling going to school as a 5-year-old, just being like overwhelming, just feeling lost being at school and not being with my parents. It was just like quite difficult. And then as I started to become a teenager, it got worse and I got more reclusive. I had points where I was still able to go out and socialise with friends, but I'd have to get really drunk to feel comfortable to be out. And then at the age of 21, I found out there was a term for how I was feeling, and it was called social anxiety disorder. So how I found out was I was just working at this Royal Mail sorting office and was just sorting the mail, and then all of a sudden on the radio it said, do you have a fear of social situations? You may have social anxiety disorder. And it was really weird. It was like a weird direct message to me to look into that. So I looked into that and I felt a massive sense of relief that there was a name for how I was feeling and I wasn't like messed up or there's something seriously wrong with me. It was just like quite a common thing that I think it's about 1 in 10 people have shyness and anxiety to that kind of degree that it stops you doing things in your life. And I started going to self-help groups and started pushing my comfort zone, doing different things that I found uncomfortable. Went to public speaking groups and did this thing called landmark education and did like these big seminars with like 100 people and just like faced my fears, did loads of things like doing Zoom interviews. And this was before then, this was like Skype back in 2010. And then I got to a certain stage and I wanted to help other people. So I set up an anxiety group in London and it's called Leading Light, and set up this anxiety group. And I remember the first ever session, I had a background in web design, so I set up a website and then invited, put it up on meetup.com as well. And then I think there was about 15 people came along. And I had to be really honest. I didn't know how to help anyone. I just said, I've had these problems with social anxiety. I just want to create a safe space to share. So it showed that there was a need for that. And yeah, that's where I met Sean. Sean came along to some of those sessions, and it was great to see how far he came. He has come since then. But Sean, before I go into the rest of the story, do you want to talk a bit about how it was for you before coming to the groups and then leading up to that point?
Yeah, thank you so much, Steve. Really, really happy to be here and talking to you as well. And it's interesting actually listening to you talk about the experience at school, because I haven't for quite some time thought about when it started for me, or when I started to be it started to be a real struggle, and not just a kind of a low level shyness, you know.
Yeah.
And I think at school there was always a sense of being a quiet person and being quite shy. Having lots of friends, fortunately, but also just realizing that I was not vocal or confident in the same way that other people were. And
Yeah.
I think for me, and you may remember me telling this story when I came to one of your support groups, actually, but I remember being at school when I was about 16 years old and being asked to do a presentation in English class, and just kind of crumbling under pressure, and feeling, you know, like all the symptoms you can imagine of social anxiety. Like the room sort of becomes distorted, your vision sort of, you know, wobbles, you
Mm.
sweat, you tremble, you can't speak, you feel like you're going to fall over or
Yeah.
throw up, or something. And since then, ever since then, I thought, you know, how am I ever going to do, you know, presentations if I work somewhere where I'm in a meeting, or if I want to go to university, how am I going to do presentations? How am I going to, you know, just speak in a room full of people? So for me, it was actually, it's interesting talking, you know, you mentioned about sort of 1 in 10 or so people with, people have anxiety like that. And the figure that I seem to remember, which is a bit vague, so don't quote me on it, but is the 70 something percent of people struggle with glossophobia, is that fear of public speaking
Mm.
to some degree, you know. So it's very, very common, and I think a lot of people don't really talk about it very much. But certainly for me, that was the route into it feeling like a problem, because I thought, if I've got this glossophobia, this kind of fear of public speaking, how's life going to work out? You know, it was, I think so. For me, it was probably around the age of about 18, 19, 20, when, you know, leaving school, becoming an adult, looking for jobs, and thinking, this is just not going to, I don't know how I'm going to do this.
Yeah.
And I remember coming to, I moved to London from Kent when I was 24 years old. And I remember coming to your Leading Lights social anxiety support group when I was about 28, something like that, 27, 28. So yeah, 13 years ago. And terrified, you know, not sure what to expect, not knowing whether or not, you know, you might be put on the spot to stand up or talk in front of the group. But your groups were pivotal for me. They were massive, you know, as I hope you know.
Mm.
It was genuinely a safe space, and a very gentle way into sort of practicing speaking with people. And if I remember rightly, there was a kind of a small public speaking element to it in the second part
Mm.
of the group, where, you know, as I say it now, I can feel myself like remembering what it felt like
Yeah.
to
Right.
go
Yeah.
there and to put yourself in that situation. But
Mm.
it was great, because it was, you know, let's say 10 people there, everyone's struggling with the same thing, and then you have a go, if you want to, at standing up and doing a bit of a, like, hi, my name's Sean, and I come from
Mm.
Kent, and I do this and this, and it's like miniature practice at public speaking. And so for me, yeah, I think I just, you know, bits like that. You mentioned public speaking courses and Zoom chats. Over time, I've done so much of that stuff now that I, you know, incrementally those things get easier and easier and easier. And right now, because I coach people and I host workshops and things, so it's it's become a pleasure, actually, to be with other people, to, you know, be to provide those spaces for other people. I think I still would be very scared if I were getting up and talking in front of, you know, 100 people or 150 or 200 or something. I'm
Yeah.
terrified. So it'd still be a challenge, but through perseverance and through that incremental, you know, gradual increase in confidence, I've found that I'm actually really able to enjoy my work, enjoy people's company. So, and never said this to you, Steve, but thank you. I really mean it. It was such a huge part of my life, actually. So, I really appreciate.
My pleasure. It's great to hear that. That's why I did it, I guess. Well, obviously, I could empathise because I knew what it was like, and I just wanted to create that safe space because I've been to other groups before, and it's not like there was direct pressure on you, but it felt like there was pressure, and I tried to
Mm.
take any pressure off anyone. So I'd always say, you can come along and never speak if you don't want to. I saw some people who have never stood up in front of a group, who came for weeks and didn't say anything, and then just did because they felt safe to, and it's just amazing to experience that. So I'm really glad to hear that. I'm proud of how far you've come. And we'll talk more about that in a bit. But when you're going through your experiences and all that, I was too nervous to go to university. I remember clearly looking on. I was looking at Manchester, I think, because there was no, it wasn't. That was before I went to the anxiety group there. But for some reason, I was looking at a college, Manchester University, and I was looking at the website, and you could, they have like these, like the shots of students socializing and stuff, and like groups of people, just like the classic stock photos and all that. Just, I couldn't picture myself being in those situations. All of that kind of thing terrified me, so I couldn't. As much as I wanted to go to university, I just couldn't. So I went to a local college instead, and even that was really difficult. Just, I remember going along to the first day, and it felt like a first day at school, even though I was 19. And I was chatting to someone else there. I was sat next to, and luckily, well, I say luckily, it was nice to know that she was nervous as well, and we both said it felt like being at school. But I managed to get through that by being open, and I told my tutor that I had social anxiety. So this was just after I found out it had a name, and he was really supportive and said, "You don't have to do group presentations if you don't want to. Just come and chat with me, and we do it like one-to-one." So that really helped take the pressure off, because if I didn't have that reference point of what was going on, I wouldn't really know what to say. I'd just be too ashamed. But yeah, going back to the anxiety groups, that being able to set up that space for other people really helped me grow as well, and just it took the focus off of me, and that was part of my growth as well, I guess. But back then I didn't have a creative pursuit. This is part of what we're talking about in this little chat. But I was always interested in art as a kid, and I say art, I like drawing a lot, and that's all I spent my time doing, really, because I could just be on my own. I did play with my friends and stuff and go out. This was like pre-internet days, back in like early 90s. But I remember a lot of the time drawing and remembering that feeling of what it was like to be in the flow state. We spoke about this before. Obviously, I don't know what it was then, but it's just the state where you're forgetting yourself and you're just absorbed in what you're doing. And I just remember how much of a relief that was. It took me away from any kind of shyness or anxiety that I had as a child. So it brought me. So after the anxiety groups, I moved out of London, so I left that behind, and it's actually still going now. It's on meetup.com/leading light social. I can send a link out if anyone needs to see that. But it wasn't until when was it, 2019, that I started putting my focus back into art again. And it was someone who I know who's on Substack, Thomas J. Bevan, who I read one of his blog posts, and it said it had 3 questions on there. What were you told you were good at as a child? What did you enjoy doing as a child? And what did you spend most of your time doing as a child? And all 3 answers were drawing and video games. That's what I spent most of my time doing. And this prompt that he had was, he designed it to get you thinking about what your kind of intuitive pursuits were as a child, not like just things that you did naturally without any agenda. It's not like you plan to draw and you plan to play video games. It's just something that you started doing. So me going through that exercise, I didn't particularly want to focus on video games. So I used to love it quite a lot as a kid, but I would play it as an adult. But it takes up so much time, and you just can't. Well, I can't personally do that now. So I focused on art, and then I just started drawing again. And I remember the first time I started drawing again, it was so painful. It was enjoyable but painful at the same time. So I was constantly judging myself. Had the old memories of kind of thinking my work's not good enough, and all that stuff came up for me. But then when I finished, I had about 10 pen and ink drawings of my dog, which were. I look back at them now and I'm so fond of them. They're quite beautiful. And from that moment on, I started just doing more and more. And I'm actually in my art studio now. And in 2021, I got an art studio. And at that point, I kind of felt like I wanted to pursue this more seriously. At that time, I didn't really know I wanted to pursue it as a career as yet, but it kind of came along serendipitously. So I was doing life drawing classes, and I spoke to the owner, the person who ran the class, and I asked her if she knew if there's any studio space like locally. So I contacted the place that I'm at now. It's called Art Site in Swindon. And there's normally quite a waiting list on here, but when I contacted Sally, the person who runs it, said there's just a space is just literally open because one of the artists retired and moved to the Isle of Wight. So if I hadn't have contacted her that specific day, I wouldn't have got a studio space, and I don't know what would have happened after that. But since I've had this space, I'll show you quickly. It's just having this space to come and paint is a bit of a sanctuary, really. I know that when I come here that I'm going to paint, and having the paintings around me, it's like absorbing myself in creativity. It's slightly different from, because I did start painting at home, but then it's so easy to make a mess and you have to tidy up afterwards. But in the studio, you can just come along and you can make a mess and leave it as it is if you want to. And this is like, since I got my studio, I knew I wanted to pursue it more. So I started applying for exhibitions and stuff. Had my first one here in 2021 soon after, and it just felt so vulnerable. I'm sure there's a lot of creatives on Substack and a lot of artists, whoever's sharing their work. It's vulnerable sharing your work, isn't it? And it's just it was quite hard, but also freeing at the same time, and it felt like a turning point. So yeah, it's there's so much more I want to say, but I'll let you talk for a bit in terms of when you finished with the groups and you started pursuing what you're doing now.
Thanks for reminding me of where we were. Things actually, I don't know if you hear this, but one of the things I about was like when you're in conversation, you forget the thread, forget what's said, and where you're going. And I remember going to a public speaking course that I was at for 5 weeks. Just practice being okay with not knowing what, and things come back to you. But yeah, you said that interested me was about the university and saying to your what's going on, and I'm not saying you won't do presentations necessarily. I remember having that similar range that I did do things. And after your support groups, I similarly ended that coaching program with,
Yeah.
and I decided to set up my own, support. And I think I was doing a book at one point for people with anxiety. And I remember also the time I hosted one, who was going to turn up, not knowing how I would possibly help, given that I was struggling with this myself.
Yeah.
But also knowing that and learning from that space that you provided was safe, and there was a feeling of kind of camaraderie and just being okay to be there with those feelings. So yeah, I started hosting book clubs for people with social and support groups that were hosting. Actually, don't want to say I stole from you. I think I it was a tribute to you. And after a while, I realized that they were immense me hosting them, but I felt like I needed to go up another level and
Yeah.
to go away from the feeling of anxiety
Yeah.
if I wanted to get more confidence. So I started hosting writing,
Yeah.
having studied, and with that as a passion of mine, I started hosting those kinds of workshops, and that fast became a sort of side business for me, hosting workshops on how to reason, how to write novels, how to write screenplays, and after doing lots of my, educating myself in that domain, and then sort of sharing the space with other people. So, me, it's hard to kind of pinpoint when things have changed for me. Mental, like every single time I've done a workshop or every single new project, it's been a challenge. It's been like, okay, well, how do I feel when I get there in front of those people and start, and how am I going to kind of, you know, yeah, provide that space and have people see me as confident, or and there's some letting go of to happen in order for you to be able to actually settle in and be genuinely confident. Over time, I think I've got a place, and so I now I host retreats, writing retreats, writing courses. Just connecting with what you said there about when you were younger, drawing the escape for you, or the thing most natural to you. I think paradoxically for me, language was really all that natural. Right? I felt like I speak. I felt like it wasn't fluent, and my ideas were coherent,
Mm.
and that was maybe where some of the anxiety from. And so over time, my business to become better at language acquisition, language, and I used diary when I was a kid, which was sort of slightly unusual for a boy. I'm very glad that I did, and so that there was a kind of always a feeling of express something, even if I didn't know what at that time, and it's bloomed for me. This these writing workshops.
Mm.
So yeah, it's not sure what to say except that I think similar to you, that I'm being creative in that flow writing that I do. I don't think about this angle. I don't think about anything else. Just
Yeah.
a great thing to do, and I love the idea that you've got that studio there. It feels like a ritual almost, or a kind of a sanctuary. And for me, that's like what it's like. Get into that flow state on my laptop,
Yeah.
or that and I'm solely focused on very very liberal little rituals. So yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing. You've done so well, man. I might have to get some coaching from you, actually.
Yeah.
Can you see the questions on here, Sean?
Oh, I think I can see something in, but I'm not sure if I can see the whole question.
Sandalor has asked one. I think it'd be good for you to give your perspective. Can you read it?
Does it say? I'm not sure if I can read it actually. Once I can't see them clearly for some reason.
Do you want me to read it out and then?
Yeah, that would be great actually.
Okay, let me paraphrase it. There's an unnecessary bit I need to read out at the beginning. So, as a theatre teacher, sometimes I confront this kind of anxiety in my students. Do you have advice for me as someone who does not have this experience and difficulty? Any advice for me on how to be kind, patient, and welcoming? My job is to help them de-block, but are there ways that I can do this in a less violent way?
Mm. Yeah, my mind even back to a public speaking course where it's a practice of being in front of a group of people and accepting questions or even inviting from the crowd. Because when you get stuck speaking, when you kind of feel that sort of paralyzing anxiety that stops you from speaking, one way to immediately dislodge that or kind of interrupt anxiety is to accept or to respond to what's happening in the room. So if when you're teaching a class and you can see that state, I think for the most part, asking a question and helping them sort of move through that experience um, will do the trick. I'm sure there are lots of other things as well that will come up. Maybe if you have an idea, Stephen, I can kind of come back on.
Yeah, yeah. I think maybe we could both think about that, and we'll send you some ideas over. But yeah, bringing it back to, because I just noticed myself then I put the question on you, Sean, because I didn't think I had an answer, but I did actually do it at the groups with the public speaking, and theatre is public speaking in a different way, isn't it? You're performing, so I think maybe Sandalor, you don't necessarily have to experience it yourself, but hearing our perspectives, you know that it can be really difficult for people. So brainstorm ideas of exercises that can take off any pressure on the person, I guess. And I'm curious, what do you mean about a violent way? I know you don't literally mean violent, but what do you find that you're quite forceful in trying to like push people into doing it, or?
I'm just realizing that I was as public speaking, but it's different, isn't it? If people are kind of get into that quandary of feeling and not being able to kind of respond or improvise in the moment or be the part that they're meant to be. But yeah, I totally agree with you, Steve. It's like you're taking the pressure off in those situations, and having plenty of practices and games and exercises where the pressure will sort of feel into their confidence in a quite a useful um, thing to remember.
Yeah. Oh, so she said no, but often they end up just on the side, so I don't feel like I've helped them. Yeah, I get that. I think something came to my mind. Maybe you could, I don't know, ask if there are particular students who are struggling, ask them specifically what it is they're struggling with, what they're feeling and thinking, and kind of design some ideas around that. Because I think going back to the public speaking groups, I don't want to blow my own trumpet, but I think I helped a lot of people with that. I can't even acknowledge myself for doing that. But taking the pressure off, absolutely, just like does something. I think a good term is non-resistant. So you're not, because if what you resist persists, and if you're, I'm not saying you're doing this, but if you're trying to push someone and they go more into their shell a lot of the time, so trying activities that are non-resistant or doing the kind of most minimal exposure that gets them in that direction. So like with the public speaking groups we did, we had like I came up with different questions that people could answer in front of the group, and you could choose like something which is quite philosophical, and it might take a bit more vulnerability to be up there and think on the spot about it, or you could go up and answer something really simple. And even just going up and talking about something really simple, you're exposing yourself in a very minimal way, but it's a lot more powerful than people realize, because you're still getting them, they're still doing it and they're choosing to do it, and it doesn't matter how small it is, it's stepping in the right direction.
Well, that just made me think of kind of like the idea of experimenting. Might be comfortable with. That led me on to thinking about no right. There's nothing wrong about what am I trying to say? I kind of think wrong. Actually, making mistakes is part of what it means to be creative anyway. So something I encourage, I guess, when hosting a writing workshop, to actively write badly well. You know that you get things wrong, and fluff things up, and things might come out that you end, or in the acting context, if theatre class, people might forget their lines, or they might say something they weren't saying,
Yeah.
or come out, way being in the situation that they hadn't intended. And that can be actually quite. So I suppose it's like to make mistakes in order that they find their feet and they learn from that. And I don't know if that's the case in painting. Do you find that you can embrace that philosophy in painting? You make mistakes, learn them, or is it structured?
I was thinking that when you said it, but I think I'm lucky. Well, I don't know if it's luck or whatever, but I know when a painting is finished, so I don't struggle with any kind of perfectionism, or but at times where I haven't really known what to paint, I will, in the same way, writing badly or just writing whatever comes to your mind or something like that, I would just like paint loads of random stuff, or I've thrown paint at canvases and just to get it moving, I guess. So yeah, I'm sure it does apply in painting, but I don't want to say that I don't get blocked in it because I don't want to jinx it. But I'm quite lucky at knowing what I want to paint and when it's finished. But yeah, I do write on Substack as well, and I've been writing since July 2023, and I had a really strong belief that I was stupid at school, and I failed my GCSE English. I think I failed it 3 or 4 times, and then didn't actually finish it. I think I got a D, and I've carried that belief for so long. But now, like nearly 2 years on, it's been, because I've been doing it twice a week for that long, it's become more natural. And I do go through that process of just writing whatever, and then I think because I had that belief, I assumed that you had to write perfectly at the first time. But a lot of writers on here, everyone who's been writing for a while knows that you can edit it as many times as you want as well. And knowing that I can do that sounds so simple, but I didn't know that. It didn't really occur to me that you could do that. So I allow myself to write whatever, and then you can just go through and tweak it. So that was quite a revelation to me. Yeah, and luckily I don't need to do that with painting, but yeah, I just wanted to open it to more questions if anyone else has any questions.
Just while we're waiting for one of them to come through, I had a question about you. That I wondered if you get to the end of a painting, so this isn't how I intended it to be, exactly the aesthetic I'm going for, or then, you know, because I can do that with my writing. I can think in my mind about what I want to an article or a bit, and then it doesn't turn out exactly what I want it to, and sort of trying to be okay with that.
Yeah. I have had, it's been in the minority, but I have had some paintings that I've painted over, and I've been okay with that because they just haven't turned out what I expected. And I do admire people who have a high level of skill, who can like paint off the top of their head an idea and it's perfectly formed, like compositionally, and the painting style is really strong and everything. But yeah, I've got to a stage that because I know the art is coming from me, it's gonna, how do I put it? It's gonna work out in my favor, because it doesn't totally matter what it comes out like. It's the process of painting it, and even if I don't totally love it at the end, it's someone else might. And I've had that a few times. There's been certain paintings which I thought were okay, and I really did enjoy painting them, but certainly weren't any of my favourites. But then they were quite popular, so it's just letting go of any kind of preconceived notions or worrying about how it's going to turn out. Just enjoying the process. And like I was saying to you before, Sean, I have a starting point where I'm working along a theme and I have these ideas popping in my head day to day, and I've got them on a list, and it's nice to know I have this list of ideas, and then I can come into the studio and I'll print some reference photos and I can get to work on that, and then I really enjoy freestyling on that. So I don't really plan my colours at all. And again, I admire people who do that. People mix colours and get their whole colour palettes organised, but I just work through it, and I mix paints as I go, and I just enjoy that kind of messy process.
Just a plan. And I think you said sometimes you write elements of it down as well, but then there's also a process sort of free flowing, and the colors can develop it as they want to, almost process.
Yeah, the color process is more intuitive. Like I was showing you this one earlier, so that was taken from a reference photo. That's me in a hospital bed when I was having dialysis, and it's kind of turned a bit pastely, and the wall wasn't purple in the photo; it was like a grey color. But it's nice to like go along and follow this kind of rough guideline of having a reference photo and knowing that I don't have to follow it color wise, and I can do what I want. And it's nice having that freedom, and I think it's turned out really nice.
Painting. That's the first time I've seen it. In its painting form. I've seen it on your social media before.
Yeah,
Love that.
thank you. Yeah, it's just, I don't know. Maybe I will. I'm also open to changing as well, because I don't want to say I do it this way and that's how it's going to be. I'm open to maybe having a bit more painting training. Like you said, you were looking into it. But at the moment, I'm happy with the way it is. And if I decide to have some painting lessons, I will do. But I'm enjoying what I'm doing, and that's the main thing, really.
Yeah. Yes, I was talking about kind of maybe having some lessons. I was wondering whether or not you do teach people, but and then I think we were talking about rather than teaching people the act of painting or the craft of painting, it's more about the. Were you saying it's sort of like what goes into the emotional experience of painting and the kind of the process that people have and wanting to be part of that experience
Yeah,
with people?
yeah, the expression and I think that having the ideas behind it, that's become a more important. Well, it's always been important for me, but been listening to a lot of artist interviews, podcasts and stuff, and I just love when people discuss their ideas behind the painting, and it's just, I think that is more powerful and interesting to me than the technical skill of a painting. Like I used to be really into watching Portrait Artist of the Year, and I did apply for like 4 years, I think, but then I stopped. I'm not really bothered with that because it's I don't know. They're all amazingly talented. Don't get me wrong, but there seems to be no room for any kind of, I don't know. They're all pretty different styles, but they're kind of along the same. How do I describe it? I don't know. A lot of the time, you wouldn't be able to tell whose painting it is in a crowd of painting. A lot of the kind of realism work, which is really great, that a lot of portrait artists do now, but it's like Jean, someone on Substack that I know, Jean, said she went to an art fair a couple of months ago, and she said all the stuff looked the same, and it was just pretty boring. Um, and that's why I like having my own style and sticking to that rather than trying to perfect my painting so it's more realistic. And it took me a while to get to that place, and still, even now, I sometimes doubt myself about it. But I've had reinforcement from mentors and friends and stuff. Like someone saw one of my murals I did on as a photo on Facebook, and then they knew it as mine straight away, which was nice to know that someone could recognize your work, like recognize it immediately. And I think that's how you kind of stand out and give your own unique voice, because like I said before, if you've got 10 different really talented artists, their styles do differ, but they don't differ that much that it's kind of unique.
Your style definitely stands out to me. I kind of recognize a painting instantly, and I've seen that mural as well, again on social. And you've got I think it's okay to mention this. You've got an exhibition coming up, right?
Yeah.
London.
Yeah, in September. So we've got an exhibition in the Crypt Gallery on the opening night 6th of September, and it's on 17th to the 18th of September. Yeah, sorry, what were you going to say about that? Are you going to say anything in particular? Or?
I was going to ask you about the theme and how it came about, and yeah, whether I think that's it. Yeah, what was the theme and how did it be?
So the title of it's called Memento Vivere. So it's which means remember to live in Latin. I don't want to sound like I'm some massive philosophy expert, but definitely, as you know, like having anxiety and stuff. I don't know if you've read a lot of self-help books, but you certainly went on Landmark Education. You're kind of in that sphere of self-improvement and learning about that kind of area. So I started looking into the philosophy of memento mori, which is remember your mortality. So there was a lot of writers in the I don't know what period, but in history, like Marcus Aurelius wrote a lot about death, and Michel de Montaigne, other philosophers like that. Basically, it was more commonly discussed in previous periods of history that we all have we're all mortals. We have a expiry date. We're all going to die, but we kind of shy away from it nowadays because there's so many distractions, and we don't really ponder on that. And it's not a morbid philosophy. It can sound like it is, but it's making the most of the time you have by actually realizing that you're going to die, and at some point, hopefully, you're going to have long, fruitful lives. But having that driving you, I think, is a powerful philosophy. And being sick with kidney failure twice has made me like contemplate that. Touch wood, I'm doing well now. But so yeah, the idea of memento vivere, rather than call it remember your mortality, I wanted to call it remember to live. So it's just flipping that. And it's set in a crypt as well. So I found the perfect venue, which is I think it's an 18th century burial crypt underneath St Pancras Church, turned into an art gallery. So it's dimly lit, and it's got like a labyrinth of corridors. It's and it's just the perfect space to contemplate. And but like I said, it's not all morbid. I've got kind of humorous pieces and some more kind of I guess sadder, thought-provoking ones as well. So there's quite a mixture, but I want it to be kind of a contemplative space to come to. And some people go into galleries and just look around quickly and take photos and go, I want this to be kind of a meditation of sorts, taking your time going through the corridors and thinking about what each piece means, and just really having the time to contemplate it. So yeah, I've been putting a lot of time into promoting that, and I just wanted to like take things into my own hands, because there's so many artists who are contacting galleries that there's too many artists for the amount of galleries that exist. So it's previously I've just contacted so many galleries, and they get so many entries that you don't get a reply, so it seemed a waste of energy, really. So I wanted to set this up myself, and I've booked the venue and like planning everything myself, really. So and just hoping it has has a big impact and leads on to other opportunities after that.
Mm.
Mm.
That's really cool. I didn't know that it was helpful what the concept was, but also what you were just about them understanding the quote and flipping it on its head, saying, remember the big. That's deeply resonant to me. Again, something I didn't know about your work, but having studied existential ideas, existential coaching more recently, a CPD that I was doing to extend the kind of coaching that I offer. The idea, it could, like you say, it could sort of sound morbid, focusing on death, but it's quite creative and essential, to think about what do I
Yeah,
want to be doing here with my time on Earth. What's the meaning of the kind of work that I'm putting out there, writing or visual art, or the way that we are with our family, or what do we do with our time, and what's the kind of the purpose that we're feeling that accumulates around those activities, things that we do
yeah,
in the world. Um, so yeah, that's deeply resonant for me. It's something I'm trying to focus on with people that I work with when whether they're usually I'm working mostly with writers, so it's about putting together ideas for a book or a story, poems, and thinking about what's the role of work in the world. What can
mm,
other people when they're reading, how they connect with those people when reading it and going through it and having it sit and excite their imagination. Um, but say, coming back to your exhibition, I had no idea you'd organise yourself. Are you exhibiting with other people? Well, was it just you?
no, it's just me, but I may have a few other people there. I'm not sure yet. Just as a mainly my work, but I may have a little section, um, but I'm undecided yet. I'll
Mm.
explain it quickly. It happened by accident, so I contacted this artist who does a lot of neon. He does all his work is in neon lights and stuff. And I wanted to invite artists that I admire along to the exhibition, so I said I'd love to have you there. And he thought I invited him to uh, show his work there, and I didn't
Ah,
correct
mm,
it. So I might just I may just go with that and have a few people in like one section of the corridor,
mm,
because it might be a good win-win situation where they can help promote it because they've got their work in there as well. But
yeah.
I'll see how that pans out anyway. But the idea was to mainly have my work so I can, um, create publicity around it so I can get my work out there a bit more,
Mm.
invite people to the opening. Um, I don't know if I told you, Sean, I invited Matt Berry. Do you know Matt Berry from?
Ah, you did. Yeah, you told me. Yeah, that's great.
Oh, did I? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll just say about it quickly for people on here. So Matt Berry, um, he's a musician first and foremost, but he became an actor, and he's like quite a funny, well-known comedic actor in the UK. And he was doing a talk in Bristol, like a record signing for his new album. And I wanted to invite him along to the exhibition. I was really bloody nervous about it. Um, so I got a flyer and I wrote on the back, but I made some mistakes on it. It looked like I can't remember what it said, but oh yeah, that was it. I said I want, dear Matt, I'd like to invite you to my private party, blah blah blah. And my friend said, dear Matt, I would like to invite you along to my private parts. My writing was bad. I was nervous. I was like, oh shit, I can't give him that. And that was the only flyer that I had, so I improvised. There was there was a photo booth there that printed photos with the Rough Trade logo on, which is like this cool record shop in Bristol. Got one in London as well. So I held the flyer in this photo booth. I scanned my phone to pay for it, and then looked down. It took a photo of me holding the flyer. I wasn't looking. I didn't know it was going to take a photo, and I had 4 photos on there of me showing the flyer. Then I wrote on the back of the flyer the printed thing of the photos and gave that to him instead. It looked really cool. I made this improvised like flyer for him. And I found out that he actually went to art college, so he's into art as well.
Yeah.
And he did a bit in his talk where he said he would approach people that he admired, and he was talking about that and how nervous he was. So it kind of gave me the permission to go and speak to him. So it kind of worked out quite well. I hope he does come along. I don't know how to reach him otherwise. He's quite a private person, really. But if he comes, he comes. I've invited him. So, and then I've also sent tins of beans to to different artists because sounds crazy, but the idea it costs about $1.65 for a stamp nowadays, which is quite a lot. And I haven't got any like funding for the exhibition, so I thought I'd send tins of beans to people from Amazon because it costs 47p, including postage. So I sent Tracy Emin some beans, sent Damien Hirst some onion rings, sent a few other people, different artists. An artist called Heath Kane. I sent some Ritz crackers to him, and he he shared the photo of the crackers on Instagram. So he said he's going to come along if he can. So I've just been doing these kind of guerrilla marketing things because I haven't got like massive PR. Well, I haven't got any PR budget or anything. It's been quite fun being creative on how to promote it and stuff. And as I said in my last Substack post, I've got a 3 meter banner printed from Vistaprint, which is like quite a cheap printing place. It's not just in the UK, but I'm going to put that outside St Pancras Church on the railings. They've got big railings there. And I'm really looking forward to that. It looks really good. It's got a massive QR code on as well, so people can just like scan it and go straight to the website. And that's only like 65 quid. And hopefully that'll make a big impact being, you know, Euston Road, don't you? It's not, it's down from where Landmark is, around the corner.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So it's a really busy road in London. So hopefully having that there is going to help in itself. So, yeah.
There's a bit of a lesson in there as well, actually, which I see echo in a lot of the coaching work I've either been part of or seen do, which is that you don't know what might be available until you ask. You know, so that kind of novelty leaflet thing to carry, and you're sending the beans to taste. And so there's a really creative ways, but also even just asking for something, asking if somebody might be something. We forget how easy that is to do, and actually quite often people will respond kindly or might say yes. I remember doing wanting to host Q&As of published authors, and not really knowing how to go about it, you know, an agent for myself or a team or anything. Thinking, well, there's no way I'm going to want to come and do a Q&A in a tiny little workshop in some privately organized by a nobody. So someone that nobody knows. But I just reached out to publishers, and I actually found an article online of the published authors, young authors, who were sort of just beginning to make a bit of a splash in that world. And 2 or 3 of them got back to me, and one of them actually came and did a Q&A with me. It was, well, his book was called Kismet. It was about a dating app where you were given a percentage of how much likelihood you would fall in love with someone or something like that. It was a really good book, actually. But he came and did a talk and a Q&A with me in one of my workshops. And then another thriller writer came along. But yeah, it's just, it reminds me of how you know, things happen when you actually put yourself out for them, you know.
Yeah, that's so true. And that reminded me of a couple of things. Going back to the anxiety groups, you probably heard the story of Ruby Wax coming to my first exhibition. Remember that? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I heard Ruby Wax she's like a big UK celebrity. She's American, but came over here, and a mental health evangelist as well. So I got invited to speak with her at the BBC. God, that was in 2008.
Mm.
And I had it in my head because I was planning my first event, anxiety event. It was a conference where you come along and try different activities, like CBT, hypnotherapy, laughter therapy, just like this was before, I think it was after, it was before the actual groups started. This was like the first instance. So went to speak to Ruby, got filmed for this BBC thing, and I said to the producer before I went on, do you think it'd be okay to ask Ruby if she would come to my event? And they said, oh, she'd probably be too busy. I wouldn't bother. But I didn't listen. I had the chat with her and we had a really nice connection. And then at the end, I said, Ruby, I'd love it if you come along to this anxiety event I've got coming up in a couple of months. And she said she'd love to. She just needs to check with her personal assistant. She contacted her assistant and said it was fine. And then she came along. And sometimes asking is really difficult because you're being vulnerable. It's especially when it's someone who's well known. You think they're better than you because they're well known, but they're still human. They still have emotions. They still empathise with people's situations. And she came along, and that also reminded me about planning for this event. So I was asking people to become patrons of the event, to sponsor, like to donate towards the cost of the event. So I emailed some people and basically asked if I could have a chat with them about the exhibition and stuff, blah blah blah. So I ended up talking with two people um, who I want. Let me go back slightly. I wanted to speak to people who knew about my art or had bought my art or something, so they had a connection to me and my art, and they knew what I was up to. So I asked a couple of people. One of them was an old website client who lives in California. So I was chatting with her about it, and cut a long story short, she and her husband donated £1,000 towards the cost of the exhibition, and that covered the venue cost. And this was like a month before the venue costs were due as well. So it was just having that courage to ask, knowing your worth in what you're doing, and then it came through, and that happened with someone else as well. So I had like 2 loads of £1,000 to cover. That's covered like a lot of the costs of it, just by asking. And there's other people who said no, but yeah, the power of asking is underrated. And especially like in the social media age, we want to, not everyone, but there's an idea that you want to go viral, so a lot of people see it, but connecting with people who have a connection to you and reaching out and asking and having that richer connection is much more powerful than just being viral in front of a lot of strangers, really.
Yeah, I totally agree. Really do agree, and it's inspiring thinking about the things I've to organise over the next year or so, and immediately in my mind kind of go to all these places about who can I ask, who would be the best person to have at the event, or who might enjoy hearing about that and might love for endorsing it in some way.
Yeah.
Just noticing the time though, and thinking about the human connection. I wonder, did you want to ask anybody here whether they might like to come to the workshop? Oh, sorry, to the exhibition, or do you want to share details about it?
Oh yeah, sure. Yeah. So my exhibition's from the 6th to the 18th September. It's in London, and the website is cryptlondon.art. So yeah, the tickets are free. I have like a donation option on there, so any donations go to Kidney Care UK. A really great charity. They've supported me personally when I was struggling as well. So yeah, even if you're in America, please fly over. That reminds me, actually, when I was saying that story about the old website client in San Francisco, her and her husband are actually coming to the show. So they're coming to the UK just for the show and to show them around, like Swindon, Bath, and stuff as well. So it's just amazing. I don't know, just feel really humbled that they would come over just for that, really. Well, not just for that, but that's the main reason they're coming over to see my exhibition, especially so far away as well, and it means a lot. Yeah,
That's great. That's amazing.
I know.
I'll definitely be coming to the exhibition. Also, I wanted to just share my email in the chat here as well,
Yeah,
in case anybody would like to be in contact with me. So the thing that I've been working, always working on new workshops and new retreats and courses like that. But I've got a retreat coming up in September in Glastonbury for creative writers, and actually at the moment I have space for 3 or 4 people who might like to connect, share some creative writing, and get free sample coaching and feedback on that work. So if you feel like getting in contact with me, you can use that email there as well. But yeah, if you're coming to Steve's exhibition, I'll see you there as well. I'd like to meet whoever might be there. It would be really, really good.
yeah, brilliant. Yeah, thank you for offering that. That'd be great. Yeah, what I'll do is publish this one out sometime this week, so we can share it with more people. And yeah, if there's any other questions, people can comment on the post, and we'll get back to them. This has been great. I would talk for longer, but I have to go.
Yeah,
talk for hours if we could. We could do it again though. That'd be great.
I would love to. Like you said, we've played this really, haven't we? So I would love to chat again privately or like this again. So thank you so
Yeah,
much.
cool. All right, thank you everyone for watching.
Thanks everybody. Bye for now.
Take care. All right, bye bye.